With Camberwick Green well established, Gordon Murray set about expanding the world of Trumptonshire for two new series. Trumpton itself, which was first broadcast in January 1967, and Chigley, which arrived in October 1969. Roy Delaney, who took the Trumptonshire trilogy as his specialist subject on Mastermind, describes the new additions to the Trumptonshire landscape.
There were nice extensions of the whole Trumptonshire mythology. It's all set in the same neighbourhood. Like Chigley was a hamlet outside of Camberwick Green in Trumptonshire. Trumpton was a county town. Trumpton was a bit too urban for me, for my liking. But it was a nice extension of the whole mythology. They didn't do the same series over and over again and kill the feel of it. They changed it a little bit, but not too radically, and brought in a lot of good new characters each time.
With work now progressing on both Camberwick Green and Trumpton, Gordon Murray drafted in Alison Prince to act as script consultant and later writer on the Trumpton series. She'd already made her mark in children's programmes with another much-loved animated series.
I'd been kicking around at the BBC in London because I'd done a previous series called Joe, about a little boy who lived in a transport cafe. And at that point, Monica Sims, who was then head of children's television, drifted up and said, "Would you like to write some stories for this little series of puppets, Fireman?" So I said, yes. I mean, you always say yes, don't you? Daft if you don't.
Pew, pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble, Grub.
I was sent out to some warehouse in Hoxton or somewhere to go and look at these little plastic bendy toys they are, essentially, the Fireman. And I thought they looked extraordinarily boring because they were all exactly alike. So I thought the first thing to do was to give them names. So there was one lanky one, and I called him Cuthbert, and there were two who were absolutely the same, so I called them the Pew Twins. There was another dreary little one that came along at the back, so I called him Grub. And then we got down to writing the stories. That was a bit problematic because it's essentially a question of having this particular kind of film camera which exposes just a couple of shots at a time, frames. And when you run them at normal speed, the little creature appears to be moving because you've moved this toy just a fraction in between each shot. Well, that's fine, but it doesn't work on smoke or flame or water. And when I clocked about this, I realised with a shock of horror that I was going to have to write these stories about a fire brigade that never put a fire out, didn't have any flame, didn't have any smoke, never handled any water, didn't have hoses, all that sort of thing.
The fireman's roll call I get called upon more than anything to do, and so I in fact put it in Panto last year. We had a slosh scene which ended up with needing more water to make the dough. So we started off, I said, well, let's have a little water pistol to start with. The water pistol wasn't enough and squirted on the audience. And then we came in with one of those bazooka type things that you can have now, a pump. They sprayed them a bit more. And I said, no, that's no good, we still haven't got enough water. Hang on a minute, and I went off. And we had a hose reel from the fire brigade. And I just brought it on, and we heard, ba-bon, ba-bon. I said, pew, pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble, Grub. Now, at rehearsal, everybody said, yeah, that'll work a treat. And I kept thinking, what if it's absolute silence when I do it? But every night, a roar. It was lovely.
Any old rags? Calls Raggy Dan. Any old bikes, chairs, prams, rocking horses? Excuse me, says Chippy, but since you mention rocking horses, has anyone given you a rocking horse this morning? Yes, says Raggy Dan, that's what made me mention it. A lady from the cottages out on the Oakwich Road gave me one. Broken front leg it had. That's my rocking horse, says Chippy. Oh dear, this is dreadful. I kept my savings in it, hidden under the saddle. Good heavens, says the mayor, I told Mr. Craddock to put it on the bonfire. Quick, we must ring up the fire brigade. We'll phone from my office. Trumpton Fire Station. Captain Flack here. A fire? A real fire? Oh, a bonfire. Still, you never know, it might get out of hand. Yes, your worship, will be there at once.
Even though the Trumptonshire Fire Brigade never put out a fire, they were kept busy enough rescuing hats up trees, putting up posters advertising band concerts, and reattaching the crown to the Trumpton statue of Queen Victoria, which Mr. Clamp knocked off with his truck when he swerved to avoid Miss Lovelace's pesky Pekingese pooches. Oh dear.
Why, it's P.C. McGarry. Hello, Mr. McGarry. Everything in order? Nothing special to report? Good. Are you going to Camberwick Green on your motorcycle? May we come with you?
There goes the policeman, the big friendly policeman, P.C. McGarry number 452. Lost dogs, thick fogs, or don't know what to do. Then get the policeman, the big friendly policeman, P.C. McGarry number 452.
One of the particularly attractive things about Camberwick Green and the other Trumptonshire programmes is the way that everybody has a distinct, identifiable, recognisable job. You don't get a role in Camberwick Green unless you do something where the audience can see what it is that you do, and that what you do contributes in a very visible, practical way to the well-being of society. So, yes, postmen, millers, firemen, soldiers, all those recognisable things. Everyone has a pride in what they do, and everybody is respected for what they do. Everybody's appreciated for being a really good postman or a really good doctor or a really good miller or whatever it is. So here we've got an ideal society in which people do what they do because it's worth doing, and everybody gets equal respect for doing it. For a lot of people, that really is a world to which they would look forward, even though it's set in an idealised past.
Ah, here's P.C. McGarry. He'll sort things out. He's being given all the details, particularly by Mrs. Honeyman. He writes it all down. I sent for the soldiers, says Mickey. You see, I've got bees by the bakery. Bees! So that's it. A swarm has settled in the tree by the bakery door. It's my busiest time. People want to buy bread and cakes, and they daren't come near the shop. Would your boys help me to get an emergency shop going? Captain Snort agrees, and goes to get the soldiers. Now all is bustle and excitement. Two of the soldiers put a barrier around the bakery to keep people away. Mrs. Honeyman tells Peter the postman that it was she who first saw the bees. Sergeant Major Grout puts up a tent. This will become Mr. Murphy's temporary shop. Mrs. Murphy watches the bread and cakes being taken out by the back door. Dr. Mop is ready to treat any stings. And P.C. McGarry has the situation well under control.
Once a week, the Trumptonshire Fire Brigade gave a band concert in the park. And this was very popular, and all the characters of Camberwick Green would arrive at the park and watch the band. It was the end to the episode.
Only 13 episodes of Camberwick Green, Trumpton and Chigley were ever made. 39 episodes in total, and yet they've become amongst the best remembered of all the children's programmes ever produced in Britain. Ask any 30 or 40-something adult, and, likely as not, they'll be able to sing along to quite a few of Freddie Phillips' catchy melodies and Gordon Murray's clever lyrics. So why does the creator of Trumptonshire think the series have stuck in the minds of so many people?
Trumptonshire is still in existence, and after 40 years, that's not bad, you know. There were times when it had lost its initial impact with the public, about 20 years ago, and then it gradually became popular again. A child of, say, 3 watching Camberwick Green when it first went out would now be 43 years old and probably has children of his or her own. And for some reason, it's the nostalgic reason, I think, basically. They are keen on Trumptonshire again for their children as well as themselves.
I was terribly surprised when it turned out to be so successful.
Alison Prince.
I thought it was a nice series. Perhaps that's actually the success, that they are absolutely undemanding, they're simple, they're understandable, they've got a story with a middle and an end as well as a beginning, and everybody understands them. They're easy listening in perhaps the best sort of way, easy watching.
It's a programme that I enjoyed doing, having no idea how well it would be received.
Brian Kent.
It's a joy to be connected with it. It was such a clever idea and made so well that I'm proud to have been involved.
Roy Delaney works as a reviewer of children's programmes for a magazine devoted to digital TV. He's in no doubt about the quality of the Trumptonshire series.
I think it stands up really well. I think it's very groundbreaking for its time. It seemed quite simple animation at the time, but then you look at things like the Aardman Studios. I'm sure a lot of what they do come from that. I think you've got to remember at the time there was hardly any children's TV as well, and what we had was the Wooden Tops and Andy Pandy, which was very kind of like on-string stuff, or early kind of like very simple cartoons like Captain Pugwashes, and it was vivid, it was alive, and I think we forget. I think it was one of the first colour kids TV programs as well. I think it just lasts. I think it's as important part of children's literature as maybe Beatrix Potter and Enid Blyton. I think it just gets, because it's a TV program, it's not treated as seriously. I think it's a really important landmark in kids' literature.
Well, it might be groundbreaking television, or maybe just a collection of simple stories with catchy tunes and clever animation. But there's one question I still want an answer to. What happened to the puppets?
After about 20 years, I went up in my attic and looked at the puppets. They were made of plastic foam, and the heads were ping-pong balls on an aluminium wire frame. And I thought to myself that they looked rather sad. They had begun to disintegrate. So I took them down to the bottom of the garden and burnt the whole lot.
That's right. He burned them.
I didn't want them to be seen by people. They were props. They were film props. One soldier boy escaped. My elder daughter gave it to a friend who kept it for many years and only showed it to people when they had a dinner party, because it was kept in a shoebox.
I don't wish to turn this into one of those wallowing in nostalgia fests. Somehow the timeless nature of Trumptonshire makes something like that quite redundant. This was a utopian vision of a Britain where the very worst thing that could happen is that your windmill sails got stuck. The programmes had a calm beauty all their own, and television was all the richer for it. Whether it would do well today, well, I showed it to my children and they absolutely loved it. So Trumptonshire remains timeless.
Here is a Box, a musical box, was presented by Phil Jupitus and produced in Manchester by Libby Cross.